Hello everyone, and welcome to day number 61 of our daily Chofetz Chaim. Today we continue with the 7th chapter of the laws of Lashon Hara. And the Chofetz Chaim writes in halacha number 7. Now we will begin to explain the laws of accepting Lashon Hara from someone who is either believed to you like two witnesses, or from a Mesiach Lefi Tumai, meaning someone who is speaking about something else and happens to mention something which is derogatory about someone in passing, or if you have a reason to believe, some sort of proof to believe the negative information. And even though in most areas these halachos are all the same, nevertheless the Chofetz Chaim writes that I have split them into various halachos, each one individually, because there are certain differences between them, and also so that it shouldn't be overwhelming to have too much information and all the little branches and applications that come out from each one individually. And so the Chofetz Chaim begins. The prohibition of accepting Lashon Hara is even if you hear from somebody who is believed to you like two witnesses. And then the Chofetz Chaim asks, what about the scenario that we mentioned back in the 4th chapter, about if you saw someone do something wrong, which everybody knows is wrong, and they did it knowingly and on purpose, and they certainly, we can assume, knew that it was something that was not allowed to be done, and they show no signs of regret. So the halacha is, we mentioned then, that you are allowed to share that information with this person's Rebbe or their close friends in order that they should be able to distance themselves if you are believed to them like two witnesses. And so the Chofetz Chaim asks, how can that be the case if we're saying now that you're not allowed to accept Lashon Hara even from someone who you believe like two witnesses? So the Chofetz Chaim says it's different over there because in that case there is no way to find any kind of merit for this person, because you know that he knew that it was wrong and he did it anyway, and therefore in order to protect the people around them from being influenced, they are allowed to distance themselves, and therefore you're allowed to share that information with them. However, in a case where you don't necessarily know that he definitely knew that it was forbidden, or perhaps he didn't do it on purpose, or perhaps there is some way of judging him favorably, giving the benefit of the doubt, or if perhaps you're not dealing with a specific circumstance or episode that you're trying to share, but you're simply saying negative things about someone or talking about some lack of good things that they have, or you're talking about their past, or you're talking about their family, or any of those cases that are all forbidden to say that Lashon Hara, you're certainly not allowed to accept it even from someone who is believed to you like two witnesses. Because even if it were 100% true, nevertheless, that information is not allowed to be shared and therefore would not be allowed, as opposed to the case that we mentioned earlier, in which you're allowed to share the information for the benefit of those people who are listening. And the Chofetz Chaim continues and says that even when you are allowed to accept this statement from someone who you believe like two witnesses, you are still only allowed to take it into consideration that it might be the case, but certainly not to believe it for certain, and you can just accept it enough to distance yourself from any potential harm or negative influence from this individual. And Chofetz Chaim writes that, like with everything else, there is, in addition to the prohibition of accepting Lashon Hara, there is also the prohibition of causing someone else to sin, because by being available to listen to this Lashon Hara, you've given an opportunity for the speaker to sin with saying Lashon Hara, as well as all of the other applicable prohibitions and positive commandments, etc., that we mentioned back in the introduction. And in halacha number 8, the Chofetz Chaim writes that even in a scenario where everybody knows that it's certainly wrong and you are certain that this person did it on purpose, etc., you're still only allowed to believe it from someone who is believed to you like two witnesses if two conditions are fulfilled. Number one, this has to be first-hand information, meaning that this person who's telling it to you saw it himself, not that he heard it from someone else. And halacha number 2, even to believe it does not give you license to then go and share that information any further. You are only allowed to believe it to the extent that you will protect yourself from any negative influence from the individual that was spoken about.